Welcome, Legionnaires, to the Long Live the Legion podcast, where we talk about the Legion of Superheroes comic book team and break subjects down so that whether you're just out of the Legion Academy or you're a longtime veteran, you get to know the team a little bit better. I'm your co-host, Jim.
And I'm your co-host, Jay.
And we are here at part 2 of our crossover with the Men of Steel podcast, where we're talking about the Foundation story arc from 2004. And so we have some special guests with us today. So first, I'd like to introduce Mr. Case Aiken.
Hi, can I be a substitute Legion?
Always. Well, you're kind of our boss at the CPOV network. So. And then also we have with us Mr. JMike Folson.
I think I technically qualify as a cadet at this point.
Well, your flight ring is in the mail.
Oh man, I'm so excited.
And we also have a very special guest with us today, the person who was the illustrator on this particular story arc, Mr. Chris Batista.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. So we just got off of a marathon session talking about the first 3 issues plus the Legion Secret Files 3003 issue. So, and just to kind of get everybody up to speed where we were, the universe is coming to an end. Time is eating itself from the edges, and Darkseid is on his way back, and his minions are trying to revive Darkseid and get Apocalypse back up and running. But the Legion is there to stop them at every turn, or at least they're trying to. So, where we ended up, where did we end up, actually? Let me get to that last issue. There's a giant boom tube. A boob tube. Did I say a boob tube?
Boom tube, yeah.
I think I did. There's a giant boom tube surrounding the entire Milky Way galaxy, sucking out all the dark matter to help energize this this return to Apocalypse. So with that, we're going to pick up with the Legion number 28.
Yeah, so it opens with them, or with a crash landing in Smallville. And like, so far we've had all kinds of time shenanigans, so it's like, well, what's going on here?
And I thought, I'm not sure if this is true or not, and Chris, maybe you have a better idea. This is probably the first time chronologically I remember seeing this kind of trope of like an alternate Superman origin where, something crashes into Smallville.
Yeah, I thought that was really clever of Dan and Andy. I loved that, where they had the farmer and then he crash lands. Yeah, that was I was like, bravo, boys. That was awesome.
Yeah, this is a great intro to the comic. Like, it just gets you right in and you're like, what's going on? What's happening? And then it just looks like you're back in old Smallville. And then they throw the twist after the first couple of pages and you realize you're not. You're at the Smallville Museum. It's 3003.
The World Heritage Site.
Yeah.
Also, we established here that Smallville is in Kansas. So, because I know there's always some debate over, is it in New York State or something strange like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Delaware.
I still like to claim that it's in Alberta because that's where they filmed the first Superman movie, but that's just me as a Canadian. So
there you go.
Yeah, so Clark Kent, and I'm going to have to resist the urge to call him Superboy because the other one is definitely much more Superboy. The young Clark Kent, the young Superman, as they would say on the Legion animated series, gets grabbed by Dark Orion, who again looks dope as fuck. Sorry if I dropped an F-bomb like a little early in this podcast. But yeah, just need to emphasize that. And then the Connell Superboy interrupts, and we see the rest of the Legion is sort of like flying in. And also we get a reminder that we have this like tension between Superboy and Cosmic Boy because they note that like, oh, Superboy just rushed ahead. Cosmic Boy is going to be really annoyed about this whole situation.
Yeah, which to me makes no sense. I mean, Superboy's rushed in to save the day, and the entire Legion is standing back going, oh, this is bad, and you're like, no, he's making the right choice. This is what we want to see Superboy do, is it not?
Well, at the same time, you have to realize, let's have a plan. Let's get the situation, and then we figure out a plan of attack. I'm looking at it from Kaz's point of view, that's all,
Well, that's an important balance, right? You have the methodical leadership of Cosmic Boy, right? Who, he's like, always doing things with a plan, doesn't do anything without a plan. And then you have the impulsiveness of Connor, who's just kind of jumping into things. Nice contrast.
And I guess if both Wildfire and Shikari are going to stand back and wait for orders, then we can expect that from anybody.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Wildfire would have actually been there just as fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get that it's also like a historical site, so like in terms of like you want to be extremely careful. And as we established, Comic Boy is like particularly a historian, so and one of the believers in like the legacy of Superman or the whatever that was. So I could see him being particularly sensitive about the damage to Kansas, but like it also makes sense that like, you know, Connell has like his own appreciation about it. Like we get the whole like hands off Kansas, which is a nice little like punch right there. And it's like, oh yeah, he's at this point like living with Ma and Pa Kent and like, you know, getting that whole experience.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
So speaking of tension, we go back to Legion World real quick. And then we get a little bit of a tense moment between Garth and Imra.
Yeah. They like try to like guide Garth out of the room because everyone's just like so uncomfortable with him there.
Yeah, it's an interesting way they've handled this for the whole run because they keep saying like we forgive Element Lad and he wasn't really the bad guy and we understand that he went crazy, but then when they're actually having it thrown in their face, it's the exact opposite response. And it's like, no, we actually want this guy. We want this guy out of here. I thought it was interesting that it was XS who was doing that. Like,
yeah,
because you would think would be the one who'd kind of be the most forgiving of anybody, especially because she wasn't one of the Legion Lost
Legionnaires. If it was
Legionnaires.
the Legion Lost cast, they would definitely be on edge because they've seen him murder people.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, like I could understand, like, you know, if you were from Xantu, like, and you knew he had murdered Monstrous, you'd be like, yeah, you know, give me some space. But yeah, XS has always been written as sort of like the friendliest, nicest of the Legionnaires. So when she's reacting, it hits even harder.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good scene. I liked that scene.
I'm going to move forward a little bit when we get to the battle between the Legionnaires and Orion. And if you didn't think Cosmic Boy was powerful before, when he uses his powers on Orion's astro harness and just twists it around and traps him, and you're like, oh, okay, like this guy is not messing around. It was one of those scenes that just so stood out because, you know, he's not playing around. He's pushing all of these characters apart. He's acting like the leader, which I thought was a great use of him.
Yeah, Dan and Andy had said that they really wanted to establish that Cos was a heavyweight, and to just show it, and also the fact that his I can't remember if it was in the script, but I intentionally wanted to make him look very understated. He's not posing aggressively when he puts Orion aside. It's almost like nonchalantly, you know, instead of like that hyper aggressive, almost 90s action, which the scene could definitely be. You could sell it that way, but It works better. Like he's just so pissed off. Like, you know, you shut up, you know, and he's just got Orion on lock. And
it's a really cool effect that you pulled off here on this particular.
Well, I stole it from Keith Giffen, you know. Okay. It's all stolen from Keith, but I can't take credit for it. Keith Giffen came up with the bubbles that were when Keith and I would have conversations. He said that he made great efforts to try to make every individual Legionnaire's power signature stand out from each other. And that was Cos's. And everyone has stolen it ever since.
Yep. That, and we get a little bit of a Kirby crackle.
Oh, well, I got to get Kirby crackle in there.
Absolutely.
So we established that it is the heritage site of Smallville, and that this young lad who crash landed is Clark Kent. And that's why this is a crossover with the Men of Steel podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, and then it's just that moment of like, okay, so we have Superboy, and then we have, as you said before, Superboy, but not Superboy. And I thought it was, you know, it was the way they used the symbol as the thing that woke him up from 2 issues ago. Like he grabbed the crest, the Superman symbol, and that was what broke the mind control, and they introduced that. And now we have Clark Kent, who's the Superman that Cosmic Boy wants, and then we have Superboy, who's the Superboy that Cosmic Boy doesn't want. And you have that conflict now, and you now see, you know, now you're going to start getting Superboy's, you know, character growth.
Yeah, that I did love that scene, how it played out, and how they're always kind of taking digs at Connor, you know, like, see, that's how it's done, you know. And it's just like I remember even when I was drawing that, I was like, man, you guys be dicks to Superboy. But I get it because it wasn't Teen Titans. This was basically Justice League level, taking shit seriously. The Legion is not there to party. They're there to get things done, and the universe was threatened. They're not there to trade jokes and stuff. They're there to like be ultra serious, and I really liked that. I liked when they were treated that seriously.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how Teen Titans was being played as like they are teenagers and they're still learning, and the Legion just leaned completely into, nope, they're not learning anything. Like they're at the top of their game, and the entire, Abnett and Lanning run is them going up against heavy hitters every single time. Like we kind of joked we joked on the Men of Steel podcast how the Earth kept getting attacked, but it's always been these big events, and they can't play around.
Yeah, that's what I appreciated, because there was no Justice League. It was like they were the progression. Like the Justice League was the granddaddy. They were the heavy hitters, but the Legion. I always think every writer has to write them that they handle stuff that the Justice League doesn't, and that also is consequence of 1,000 years of technology that benefits them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the technology of like New God technology and all that stuff, what Brainiac 5 would do with that. And those are the things that I did when we spoke earlier about what I was doing on Secret Origins. I wanted them to say, Brainiac would not sit still. He'd say, hey, I got the Zeta Beam. Let me do something. I got a pencil kit. I got this. I'm going to do something really cool with this. Like the technology of the 20th century should look quaint in the Legion's hands.
Right.
And
because like think about 1,000 years ago from today.
Yeah.
Right.
I would want. I mean, Superman wouldn't feel out of place because they were his buddies, but the rest would be like, oh boy, these kids are kind of outclassing us,
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because there was an earlier, like one of the early storylines, it was the Legion going against the Justice League. Like they were Justice League robots, or
they were
holograms, or
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't the Titans. It was, it was the it was the Justice League. Yeah.
I love that issue. Coipel did a great job. Dan and Andy, they had this Shikari versus Batman. And then my favorite scene was Ultra Boy with Wonder Woman. I will never forget that scene where she's like chiding him for holding back or something like that because, you think because I'm a woman? And he's like, and then he catches her punch and she's like, it's like, babe, I come from Rimbor, like he just decks her. And I was like, that's the Ultra Boy I know.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite issues. Single issues from the run is that one that y'all are talking about.
That's a great issue. It's great.
But so is this one.
Sorry, tangent.
No, it's all good. But like, I know that you have a time constraint, so we just want to
stay on target.
Yeah. So we get an info dump about like what happened to young Clark ever since the we had the allusion to the original Legion story with like Lightning Boy, Saturn Girl, and Cosmic Boy taking him into the future. And in this scenario, it actually brought him to Apocalypse. And so as he's trying to talk, they sort of explain that like, yeah, we screwed up and found the wrong Superboy, and that like and Con-El is trying to like chime in about this all, and they keep telling him to shut up, and I find that extremely funny.
Yeah, I got a good laugh out of this one as well.
And just that horrible like, yeah, the bad guys don't even want you. Like,
yeah, he'd still be useful.
like this is how bad, and it's just like every single issue is like we're just taking him down a peg, taking him down a peg, taking him down a peg, and then when you finally get to the moment where Cosmic Boy is like, you're benched, like we don't want your help anymore, and you realize like it's he's gone past that point of he can keep goofing around. He's got to get serious. He's got to start focusing. So, I was
just gonna say, and then we get into the plan here, right? We get into the kind of the exposition of what's kind of really happening and a plan to help defeat it, right?
And we also get that great scene with Superboy and Livewire, which is
you're left out too.
So well done. Like it's you get the emotions of it, you get how they're feeling, and it's just that perfect little bit of these two guys who've been pushed aside for very different reasons, but
Well, I love what Dan and Andy did was like, I don't think people expected like the Superboy being there to backfire. It was like he should just be Superboy, but they actually had a great story arc in there, and it made perfect sense. Like the Superboy that we knew in that timeline would not be a good fit for this Legion. He was a wild character, and they needed to. And I really liked that he did start to step up, and it wasn't like it was forced on him. It was just kind of like, okay, I gotta take care of this.
Yeah. One thing I want to call out for the Legion here is that they get their hands on a mother box that, yeah, it's encoded specifically to Clark Kent, but they gain access to boom tubes, and it's not a power upgrade for them aside from being able to go to Apocalypse specifically. Like the Legion is at this point at the height of their power, notwithstanding like being shy a few of the like the craziest heavy hitters that they've had on the roster at certain points in time.
But technologically.
But yeah, technologically, they have a extremely impressive arsenal and are able to teleport very freely. So it's potent. Now we also get this nice moment where like Clark Kent says that he is going to like he will lead them to Apocalypse, that he's a part of the team, and like Cosmic Boy like has like yet another dig at Kyle, being like, stick around, Superboy. You can pick up a few pointers. Like it's just delightful right there.
And then we see that among other Legionnaires, Kid Quantum is deferring to stay behind because of her power fluctuations that we still don't really understand yet.
And they have a very handsy kiss.
But at the same time, she would stay behind if she thought herself as a potential liability, and she also knows Kaz can step right in.
Yep. 100%. And then with that, they're off to Apocalypse.
Yeah, and we hit the horrific scene with. So we talked about this before. All of the catastrophists who just want the universe to die, or just want everything to. I guess they just want to die. They've all been boom tubed from around the galaxy to come to Apocalypse, to jump into a fire pit, commit suicide, to power up the planet so the planet can come back alive. And this is where it got this was a little too dark for me as an old school Legion fan. I get what they were doing, but I just was like, I don't know, millions of suicides just kind of got me there. Just my own personal take on that.
I mean, there's a reason it's in a wide,
Yeah. I mean, I took this as very much like a large scale version of like the Heaven's Gate cult and similar folks like that.
Yeah. Then also I was picturing boom tubes all across the United Planets, and I was like, and nobody knew that was happening.
No one heard the boom tubes go off.
Yeah, they're notably not quiet.
Yeah.
So, but it was good. And so then we get. We get everybody there. So we're in Apocalypse.
I remember drawing.
We've got the parademons and these like Nazi characters that you described, Chris.
I remember the sequence, the way it was written was. I just kept thinking, how the hell am I going to get all that in a page? Because they were like overwhelmed. There's these giant engines that come out of the ground. But I'm such a Jack Kirby head that getting to draw the Legion with like Kirbyisms all over the place in Apocalypse, I literally was. I was so happy. I was a pig in shit, basically, and I had the full support of the writers and my editor. Like we were pumped. So I'd go back to the drawing board and I just keep going, and it's like these were the comics I want to draw. Like everyone was like thinking I want to draw X-Men. I was the dork that wanted to draw the Legion, and it was hard, but I was having a really good time.
Yeah, these panels are just so fun.
Great.
And it doesn't stop there because we get the next issue too with even more action.
Yeah, so this issue ends with them seeing an old Darkseid finally move, because so far every time we've seen him, he's just been sitting there, and like it's sort of been implying that his will is being delivered somehow. But he like finally gets up, opens a boom tube, and then young Darkseid comes through.
And they do that whole meme where you have the two, like,
Yeah, but that's it's the Predator moment,
Yeah.
This is where that meme started, right here.
Darkseid was, and so Darkseid is. It's a great moment.
All right, and that brings us to the end of 28.
Yep.
So let's move on to 29 because this is getting fun.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start opening with 29, and I want to start with this one because I love this opening page. And Chris, I got to ask you, I saw Star Trek 6, the beginning of Star Trek 6, in the beginning of this one, where you have that explosion in space, and then this giant front wave,
The energy
kind of
wave,
comes
the
through
ribbon.
space. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I was influenced by that when I drew that. I'm pretty damn sure I was. If that's what you were asking, because I think I must have gotten it from there. Because I definitely it solves a lot of problems, but I remember that energy ribbon effect. So yes, go on.
yeah. No, I was wondering if that was an influence because that's the first thing I thought of when I opened this page up. So
I'm positive it was.
And then we get into these kind of vignettes of different panels of different periods of time that start to erase. And this is really cool because I didn't know some of the things around like the demon, right, with Etrigan. I didn't know he was from the year 1000, right, the 1066 or whatever it is here. And then you have the Amazonians in 1478 and Jonah Hex in 1873, and they're all kind of dissolving. The very, very, very cool effects here.
I just remember Crisis, and I was like trying to imply that, and I'd never drawn Jonah Hex or Sergeant Rock or Enemy Ace, and I was like, okay, let's go. This was fun.
Yeah. No,
but
awesome.
I love that
got
Jonah Hex
to do, like,
decides that he's just going to shoot the white wall of antimatter.
and I had a Batman Beyond type character in it before there was Batman Beyond.
Oh yeah. That's in a couple pages.
Yeah. And I
In
backed up with a
2019.
leather jacket, if I recall. And I don't know where I got it from. I just threw it in there.
I love it.
Yeah, this is a book you can tell. I'm sure it was a ton of work, but you can see the fun on the pages. Like you can actually feel, because you're getting to draw characters. You know, I mean, you get Golden Age Flash, and you get, you just referenced Crisis, and I spotted that. You could say you could see there's that Crisis thing, and I think. I want to say during Crisis, one of the characters shot at the Crisis wave as well with the same sort of like, I'm going to shoot a gun.
So,
even
yeah.
that's like,
I mean,
it's not going to do
they
anything.
wrote it that way. He's shooting at the encroaching time, you know?
Yeah. Because I mean, you can't do anything else, so you may as well, you know.
I think I would do the same thing. You know, pick up my gun and throw it at it, like George Reeves style. You know?
Yeah.
So and now we have sort of the big battle, and we get the big reveal of what is Darkseid's plan.
Well, before that, we have Legion World, and they're like, this is where they're like, all of a sudden, there's no more past, and it's like, there's no 1892. Make that there's no 1893 anymore. Like, and again, it's just like got to be their tech. But calling out, Chris, you talked about how you were making Superboy buffer as the story goes. You can really see that here.
Yeah, that's when they were like, because the Teen Titans book was like in a third or fourth issue, and Connor was noticeably a much bigger character. He looked like a linebacker, and so they were like, "Yeah, we should make him a little bigger." And because I was drawing him more like classic Superboy, he was drawn like he wasn't a very big guy. He was in great shape, but he wasn't
a little
a
more
big
svelte.
guy. He was leaner, you know.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because it's not like all of a sudden the guy all of a sudden packs on like 50 pounds of muscle, even if he's getting older, you know. You're kind of built pretty much the same way. But yeah, he was getting bigger.
Anyway, yeah, so now we've got the Darkseid's face to face, and it's a different perspective on the Darkseid than the cliffhanger was. Like before, it seemed that they were like very both on the same page, and now we see the younger one is not.
I can't remember why. I was like deadlines, just like you know.
Right.
No. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just noting that like now we see that like this younger Darkseid is confused.
Oh, I remember that page where all the Legionnaires in the background. Yeah, I was happy about that.
Yeah, it's a great shut up kids, the adults are talking moment where they're just like,
yeah, that was. I remember handing it in the office, and everyone was really happy. They were like, "Shit, Chris, you're having fun."
Yeah, and then we'll just go with old Darkseid and young Darkseid. So old Darkseid has pulled young Darkseid forward through time, which is what's destroying everything, because Darkseid's so powerful that him moving through time actually destroys everything. And please stop me if I get this plot wrong, because I actually had to think about this multiple times to make sure it made sense in my head. So he had gotten them to build build a temporal dam 10 years in the past that would stop all this damage from coming. He pulls young Darkseid up and says, "Hey, thanks for coming to the future. I'm going to take over your body now, and you're going to be gone." And it's like, and then surprising, young Darkseid's not happy with this plan in the slightest. So now we have Darkseid fighting Darkseid, which has that ever been done in a DC comic before?
No, at that point it had never been done. I don't know if they've done it since, but that was definitely new.
Yeah, so it's and it's kind of like you say, like the youngins go to the side, the grown-ups are talking. Now it's, hey, Legion, let's just move to the background here for a bit while these two titans beat each other up.
Well, one thing, sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to say that what I remember loving the part of the story was that I always, and it relates back to the Great Darkness saga, I was always annoyed how they had elevated Darkseid to this unbelievable level, and I think he should be at that level. And then you see other stories where he's kind of inconsequential, where Superman beats him. Right. And I don't think Superman should be able to beat up Darkseid that easily, like at all. I think it should be balls out, like I have to do everything I can. Darkseid would be 10 steps ahead. I think you minimize the villain. I think
he's literally a cosmic character. I mean, you have to put him at that level.
It's like he's, and I love Doctor Doom. You can't do that to Doctor Doom, but it's like you beat Doctor Doom. You don't really beat him. You almost just match him and just get out of the situation. But with Darkseid, I always wanted him, like, this is not the guy you mess with. You can't beat him. Even if you win, it's a stalemate of sorts. And this story was like, it had more to do with the Great Darkness side. I loved that Darkseid. Loved. I don't like when people write Darkseid as just being kind of like, you can beat the guy if you just stand up to him. Like, no.
Yeah, kind of like how he was written in the what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with the Cosmic Boy story. The
how they wrote the Time Trapper?
No, how they wrote, because remember Darkseid was the whole
for Legends.
Legends,
thank you. God, I'm getting old. In Legends, right, they start off with, it's a ploy by Darkseid, right, to undermine everybody's faith in heroes. And that Darkseid kind of seems like he's a little bit, milquetoast, right? He's like, okay, dude, you're Darkseid. You don't need to do this little stupid psyop.
Well, I just remember when Superman kind of beat him up in an issue of Superman, like that was tied into Legends, and Superman kind of beats the crap out of him, and Darkseid boom tooms him away, kind of like a little pussy, And I'm like, that's not. And I love John Byrne's. Like, John Byrne gets Fourth World, he really does. But I still think like beating up Darkseid like that, it undermines the character. Like Darkseid is like that. Like you read those Fourth World books, it was like only Orion could go up there and do that, and he'd still have to go like, this is a battle to the death. Don't undermine your character. But let's go. That was just my Darkseid rant.
Yep. So before we get back to the battle, there's a nice little moment back on Legion World where Vi and Kid Quantum and Superboy are trying to figure out what they can do. And Violet, who I think is so everybody knows, Shrinking Violet's my favorite character. She's comported very well here in this story arc, which I love. But there's also a lot of size puns with her, and I'm always here for those, right? So. Connor says something to the effect of, "Too big, you're the Legion of Superheroes. Big is what you do," and he's pointing specifically at Leviathan. So I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, I guess you had to be there.
No, I remember I liked doing that scene. I thought it was a great moment. Superboy's hovering, kind of pissed off.
Yes,
and yes.
Exactly. Then we get more time disappearing, and then we're back to Darkseid, old Darkseid and young Darkseid.
Yeah, and this is where young Darkseid betrays old Darkseid, and says that's a future case problem. And then we get this like awesome huge shot of young Darkseid with the Legion of Superheroes at his beck.
It is such a good shot. Oh my God, this is so
Thank you. I found that the other day. I'm gonna have to scan it up.
And then we get some more time racing. We get a Crisis on Infinite Earths specific panel with the Flash running and the anti-monitor, and it's 80 question. But here's where we get the far future of 2019. And the like leather jacket Batman and Robin right there. Yeah. Which I enjoyed the designs. I enjoyed the idea that this is like, slightly future Batman and Robin with Team Titans.
And no one said Martha.
No one said Martha.
Sorry, yeah. I'm always there for a Martha joke too. Okay, so we're back to Legion World, and they're kind of coming up with an idea, and here's where Kid Quantum, I think, is starting to figure out what's going on. And it looks like that whatever is happening from that time barrier 10 years in the past is what is affecting her weird power issues that she's seeing. And then they're like, okay, how can we go back in time and figure this out? And this is where Super Garth comes into play.
Yep, and he points out like, oh, well, I can use the Element Lad powers to like sheathe you in timey-wimey protection stuff, and you'll be fine. And so we can go back. And this is like the moment where like Kid Quantum like calls him Garth, and that's like shows like belief in him really being who he is, and it shows that the power of teamwork, things are going to be okay. And we cut back to Apocalypse. And we've got the Legion of Superheroes and young Darkseid fighting against old Darkseid and his entire swarm. And we get a really gnarly bit of like fight choreography where like Orion swoops in to shoot young Darkseid. Young Darkseid knocks him and then takes his gun and then like holds his hand to shoot the gun so that Orion is the one who pulls the trigger and does like the killing shot. I think is what
yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah.
He basically turns him around. He makes him shoot him with the Astro Force.
Right. And kills old Darkseid with the Astro Force. And now is like, well, fuck you guys.
So here's my only question about that. How did the Astro Harness come back after Cosmic Boy destroyed it last issue?
He didn't destroy it. He just bent the metal.
Thank you.
That's what it was. Because if you look at when Orion flies, the metal's malleable. Because his legs can turn and stuff like that. And it was on the action figure that way too. But no, he didn't break it. He basically held him with it. But that stuff was it bends. It was like it's not liquid metal, but it definitely was a metal that conforms. So no, he never broke it.
Okay, perfect.
And also, I would have been pissed if he did break it because it's the Astro Harness. Because as tough as Cosmic Boy is, the Astro Harness is flown through suns and everything, and there's just like there's regular tech and then there's new god tech, and you should not mess with that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the other ones, like when Metron's chair gets messed with, and I'm always like, no, just stop that.
I always thought that he'd have some serious precautions built into there. Like you couldn't just. He's also Metron. He'd be insane. Like if you touched his shit, you know. If you sat on my chair, if you sat in the chair, you'd like disappear to like the Xenozoic era, like into a mouth of a tyrannosaur. You know, that's how.
Yeah, or just like see the gaping cosmos and be like rendered inert.
Yeah, don't touch my shit. That would be Metron. So no, I'm with you 100%. You know.
But we get a dope shot of young Darkseid betraying everyone. And then we get the shot of the cavalry flying through time with Superboy going, "Let's go, Legion!"
And they're like,
this is going to be the
if you look, they're
episode
boogie
on
boards.
our side.
They are?
Yeah.
Oh,
if you look, those are like crystalline quantum rat boogie board type things, like they're body surfing through time.
Oh, I love it.
That is so cool.
That's how it was described, and I was like, I'm in. You know, that's so dope. I'm like, that's so cool. You know.
Oh, so that was a notation from Dan.
Yes,
Andy.
it was.
Nice.
It was basically they were like body surfing through time.
That is so cool.
And if you look at it, it's quite literal. You know,
Nice.
like they're boogie boards.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is going to be the art for our episode, I think. So
Nice.
Right here. Okay, and then we'll get to the last one here.
Yeah.
Oh, one last nerd thing that I pitched, and it was going to be in the later subsequent issues of Legion with Dan and Andy, and they love this idea as well, was that since Starboy back in the classic days was the fill-in for Superboy, being the mightiest member of the Legion, I said, why don't we get back to that? Because they had a line in Legion Worlds where Starboy was the combat equivalent of a black hole. a portable black
Yeah.
ball. And I was like, wow, that is so fucking cool. Like, he was supposed to be that powerful. When they made that connection, I was like, that's amazing. So I was going to subtly make Starboy bigger and bigger. Because remember, back in the old days when he had the goatee, he got pretty jacked. He was a big guy. And so I thought that what we could do is to bring back that Superboy level of power was we're not having him go through the accidents that gave him Kryptonian powers, was that he was going to use super strength as an application of gravity powers. So his super strength would be like he could hit you with the mass of a planet.
Sure.
So it'd be like a punch. And his body type would be, he'd look stronger because he'd be wearing a heavy gravity field to make him stronger. And this way we would get the implication that he has super strength, but he could pick up like a asteroid, but he negated all of its gravity. So he could throw it at you like it's a pebble, but it would look like super strength. And they really loved this idea because I always thought that what we should do with the Legion is the use of their power should be interesting and creative so that it never gets boring. And characters' power should always be evolving. And Starboy, we could still tap into the fact that he was almost the star of the book for a while. So yes, that was my nerd thing. Carry on.
Cool.
Oh, good.
Cool.
We
All
are
right,
all in
well-
favor of nerd things. So it's
Exactly. All right, so
we're
issue
here.
30 starts up literally the moment after we just left. The Legion cavalry comes out of the boom tube, and Superboy just clocks Darkseid right in the face.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. I was like, this is great. I get to judge Superboy knocking Darkseid.
Yeah, and of course, like, Superboy is not in the same caliber as, like, Superman, and so, like, while he's able to dodge a few hits, he eventually takes a shot.
Yeah, doing those stars where he's getting slugged by
Yeah.
Darkseid, you know. But just to, you know, yeah, he would never be able to take him in a fight, you know. But at least we show that Superboy is very tough.
All right, but then we see that like the whatever the time barrier isn't really holding, and so people are starting to freak out. And this is a smart story beat right here, I think, because it's something I don't see enough in enough time travel type scenarios where they're like, you know what? Yeah, we need to go back farther, or, you know, to a different point to be able to kind of make sure that this does not happen. So the Legion Cavalry is basically like, oh, we're out. And then they just kind of jump back a few minutes in time and reattack, basically.
Wasn't that the great line where he said Darkseid is, and he goes, Darkseid is toast?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was, when I read that in the script, I was like applauding. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
well, also that scene where the young Darkseid realizes he can't solve the problem. Like they realize that everything's falling apart, which is why they have to go back in time and stop it again. And that, hey, I just killed the only person who knows how this plan works.
I screwed
Right.
up. It's like the line because it was at that moment that Darkseid knew he fucked up.
So they go back like 30 minutes, or
Back to the meme.
21 minutes earlier, as they say.
And then it's just we have to push him back through a boom tube, and and then the rest of the Legion has to. I think it's the rest of the Legion has to keep old Darkseid distracted or whatever, so that they can do that fight. And then, we get the Legion fighting both Darksides, which is kind of what everybody wants to see as well. I mean, that's just a nice. It's as good as it is to see Darkseid fighting Darkseid. I want to see. Superboy punching Darkseid.
Yeah, it's the Legion book after all.
Yeah.
I remember the scene with I read the script where Cosmic Boy has he made a shield out of his medallions, and it's a Legion shield, and he's going because they always saw him as the Captain America of the team, so we made it literal.
Oh, nice,
nice.
He's
Okay.
jumping. It was a literal moment that they wanted, and I was like, can I put an L on the shield? And I said, absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed him using the shield.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember
I
first
love
seeing that in the Legion Worlds book, I think, and I thought it was just such a cool idea. I was like, yeah, why hasn't anybody ever done this before?
I mean, I love the idea of those Cosmic Boy symbols being that morphogenic metal that he can use, and I think they should have just gone really crazy with that he can get crazy things out of that, like that small metal when magnetism is applied could become so much bigger. He could wrap around him like skin. You could do really cool things with that.
No, that's a neat idea.
But I think that's been the story of the Legion for its entire history, where they never push the powers, or they don't, and you keep wanting them to go like, no, do this, have more fun with this. Like it's like we said before, like Cosmic Boy and Pharaoh working together, or when we talked about we've talked about this before, like Shadowlass and Night Girl. Like bring the powers to the next level and let them really let loose.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I'm going to bring up. Are you guys familiar with My Hero Academia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had a conversation with a guy. It didn't go anywhere, but I'd always said that Warner Brothers is sitting on a gold mine with Legion of Superheroes. And I do think it could be an incredible animated series. I said, just look at My Hero Academia, which it embraced so many American superhero tropes and then went crazy with it. But if you watch the show or read the manga, they are always being wickedly creative with the power usage. And they don't.
It's funny.
They don't.
It's
stop.
funny you mention it, Chris, because we. So one of the last episodes that we recorded, one of the episodes we did was talking about where they should take the Legion. It was one of the subjects anyway, and one of our listeners wrote in. Actually, the regular Jim, who's actually one of the co-hosts of another Legion podcast, he actually referenced My Hero Academia as like a template that the Legion should be able to use from YA standpoint.
That's what I was talking to my friend about. That you use that idea, and Legion did it first anyway.
Yeah.
But take it to the level that My Hero Academia did, where the use of their powers was always tied into creative solutions. Mm-hmm. Always. It wasn't just I use my lightning, I use my magnetism. No, there was always and they always upped it. They never and the next fight would go to the next scale and the next scale and next scale. It was always a creative solution, using their powers or pushing themselves to the limit. And I was like, guys, Marvel should be doing this to Legion. It's the future. You have this ethnically diverse cast. They have ridiculously cool powers. I love the Legion cartoon from way back, but it was still kind of soft and cute. And I don't think you need to go that way. I think you need to just, there is a middle ground. You can have your sense of humor in it. But Legion on its own is a very, very, very cool concept.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. For
sure. And you could do look at G.I. Joe, how many characters came in and out of that show, and it was a juggernaut. You could do that with Legion. People would have favorite Legionnaires. I'd have to go crazy with the powers.
Yeah. Yep. No, dude, you're literally preaching to the choir right now.
Yeah.
Now we just have to hope James Gunn hears this.
I hope
of course. He's listening.
I have faith. Gunn behind Legion, I could see being a good thing. I mean, look at what he was able to do with other DNA properties.
I think that what he was going to do with the Booster Gold show was hint at it. Because, Booster does have a flight ring.
Oh, man. Don't give me hope.
I think that Gunn is a guy who really does want to go into that Silver Age actual love of comic books. So I don't think he'd sit on that. Besides, he's doing a Teen Titans movie.
Yeah, that's right, he is.
So getting back to the dual Darkseid fights, we've got the Legionnaires, one group doing the shoving, which is fun to see Superboy. I note that he's using his heat vision a lot for shoving, which is interesting considering that he has tactile telekinesis as a superpower. But still, it's all good there. And this is where we confirm, of course, that Element Lad has all of Livewire's powers, which means that he's goddamn crazy powerful.
Yes, that's a guy you want on your side.
Yep.
Well,
and
also
I just love that last moment too, where Violet has Darkseid talk to the hand and just kind of shoves him out.
Also, Element Lad had also wrapped them, or Garth had wrapped them in crystalline skin,
right,
to protect them from the time barriers, and if I recall, so that's why they had the slick look on them, was that they were covered by some kind of elemental coat.
Oh, it's Tromium.
Yeah. It's like what, and yes, he was, and I remember specifically in the script that they had him use his lightning, which was without, and this is where I said earlier, if you don't have to state the line, hey Garth, you used your lightning, it's like, wow, and it's like, no, he just did it. Readers are astute. They can catch it and say, oh, because all of the clues that were in there about Garth Bunny's identity while being in another person's body, it's like you don't need to be beat over the head with an obvious moment.
Yeah, you have to trust that your readers are going to get that, right? And I think sometimes
some writers don't do that. Some writers have to literally tell you, and this was the moment that Garth realized that he was coming into his own, and it's and and no, and I get that's like the old school kind of storytelling where they like Jim Shooter would have done that, because that's part of his principles, and that's the stuff even as a kid would have taken me out of the moment. It's like I have eyes, I can see it, You don't have to tell me,
Yeah. And like in this, we get a lot of shorthand for details about that. Like, for example, when Darkseid grabs one of his servants to drain the darkness from and returns him to his point in time, which, man, that's a head scratcher right there in terms of the time paradox of this all. But it's Lobo, and we get the confirmation of that one. And like, we didn't need to spend a lot of time explaining, like, yeah, it's Lobo. He was taken from time. We just know it's like another situation like that. And same thing happens to Firestorm and Big Barda. Like it's very, very economically story told.
Yeah, you didn't need anything. Just there you go.
Yeah, but then he forgets to do it with Clark Kent, which kind of caught me. So I was like, he's sucking all this power, and then he's fighting Clark Kent. He's like, well, I'm not going to do that. So it's because we needed that showdown, which was just amazing to see. So
exactly.
Yeah,
got to set that up.
Yeah. But but that must have been fun to draw because you're just getting all of these characters where you're like, I get to do a Big Barda panel, I get to do this, I get to have.
I love Firestorm, so it's like I'm going to draw a full shot of Firestorm and Big Barda, of course, and Lobo. I remember if I thought too hard about it, I was like, okay, we can't get too literal, but there would be no Legionnaire that could take down Lobo unless Mon-El was there. And I even told that to them. They're like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop nerding out, It's like it's like, you were the guy who threw Lobo in there. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's like if I was Darkseid, I'd pick Lobo too. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I remember he's holding on to Darkseid, and he's draining the pits too. So the pits are all being extinguished because Darkseid is absorbing them.
Right.
Yeah, and I loved that because it was like, that is a huge scale. That's an epic fight,
Yeah.
It's affecting the friggin' planet, It's like, there we go. That's some stakes.
I was actually thinking a great scene would have been a Legionnaire punching Lobo. He bleeds, and then there's like 5 more Lobos.
There's 5 other
and they're all controlled. And it would have just been, and the Legion's like, and we're dead. All right.
Oh, we're screwed now.
I mean, that's how you would do like the Darkseid threat from the Great Darkness Saga, but in this
It's
case,
Lobos.
it's all
Lobo.
They're all a bunch of Lobos. Yeah, I'm glad that they retconned that. I think Vril Docs had fixed that because it's just like you've got an unbeatable. It's unbeatable.
Yep.
Yeah. But you know what? There's a universe where that story exists, and I want to see it.
But yeah, so we get this like really awesome standoff between Clark Kent and the old Darkseid. But like both Superboys get a face off against their respective Darkseids, but like obviously the more actually win the fight situation is young Clark Kent here, and it's a dope panel, and then he's left standing there like drained and ready to go back to his own time because holy shit, like at 15 he fought fucking Darkseid, man.
Yeah. I love that. He's like, he's back to normal. Yeah, that was a great picture. That was a great one. I was like really excited about that one.
But then we're back at Legion World, and like they're able to send Clark Kent, just to be clear, because
which one is it, Chris?
They're able to, I said Superman, but yeah, they're able to send Clark Kent back in time, and this is where we get the spot where I really noticed that Superboy was bulking up over the course of the story.
He's hitting weights in between panels.
Well, you fight Darkseid. That's going to do it.
Well,
right?
I mean, he's clearly training with Karate Kid. Like he's working out. But yeah, you fight Darkseid a couple of times.
You're gonna get some mass.
So we get a nice little send off between Superboy and young Clark Kent. Sorry, go.
No, I was just gonna say it's that nice touch of they can't tell him too much, even though they know he's gonna forget, and it was just this really poignant moment where. You can tell they want to have a conversation with Clark Kent and they just can't, and they've got to just let him go. And I thought it was really well handled, like just the way it was written.
Yeah, the send off when they get back to Smallville, I think is really good.
Yeah,
like Imra like putting the thoughts of like, oh, I have to go study for a history test, and like that even being like a nice little like joke for Cosmic Boy.
I love that scene. I loved how normal it felt, and I was making sure that it was closer to. I changed like the way I drew Super Clark to more the way Eric drew him with the
Right.
flashbacks in the beginning because I loved his take on them, and I love the moment where Connor tells him, like he has a real genuine smile where he's just like acknowledging him, saying because you. I can't remember what the line was, but it was basically because you have so much to do or something, and he's like, yeah, I guess I'll take your word for it or something. I can't remember the dialogue. It's been a long time, but I did like that scene because it looked like a genuine moment of growth for Connor.
Yeah, especially after being berated so long for not like measuring up.
Yeah,
to
he was
him.
getting his ass
Yeah.
whooped. Like, just like he was the whooping boy, and I was glad to see that he was like, I mean, I remember Jeff Johns made him a crack about it in the Legion Titans crossover, and it was like he said something like, and then he said something that was about like how they'd have to choose some fate that would save all of them or save one team or the other. And he goes, I think Cosmic Boy said something about him, his recklessness or something about that. And he goes, oh man, even now you're going to do that? You're going to still bust my balls now? And he goes, come on, Connor, it's our thing. And it was like it was a playful dig at the fact that he was giving him a hard time during the DNA run. And it was a good moment for Jeff.
And then we get to the final page. I love these kind of scenes where you have a comic book version of a movie where you have the credits at the very end.
Yeah.
This is really cool. You see kind of the threat of Darkseid not quite dead.
Not quite dead. Well, you have to. You got to have that moment.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if he would have ever come back, but if he did, it would have been a good like 5-6 years or something, or in some other form.
It's funny because when I read the what was it? The end of the Robotica storyline that they did. And there's this moment where the other Coluan who's kind of causing trouble, she gets zipped over to some unknown world at the edge of space.
Oh, that's right, the Omega Point or something.
Yeah, and I was like, Omega Point, huh? I wonder if that's Darkseid. And of course, it wasn't, or maybe it still could have been. I don't know. So
I thought it was related to Time Trapper.
Yeah, that could have been too. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I never actually. I don't remember ever asking him about that, but my implication was that it was that the endpoint time, and it was going to somehow involve the Time Trapper.
Interesting.
Somehow, I would have preferred that than having it being Crisis Superboy. I still don't like that.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
No offense to Jeff Johns, he's my boy, but that just still doesn't work for me.
Well, and also, if you're writing a Legion book, use the Legion villains, right? Like that's, if you've got these characters that you can use, like instead of picking somebody from another title, you go Time Trapper, you go Infinite Man, and you can be in complete control. And I again, they have so many good villains, you got to use them.
Yeah, they're just sitting there. They're sitting there and they're waiting to be, like we said, push them further. Make them cooler than they were, but they're sitting there on the toy shelf. You don't have to. Yeah, I mean, new is good. But there's still plenty you can do with the old. And like you can. It's like when you bring in the new generation, but you never step on the old one. Like the Star Wars movies didn't know how to do that. They basically crapped on the generation we love instead of doing what Picard season 3 did, where they bring in a new generation, but absolutely giving the classic generation their moment in the sun. So at the end of it, fans were like, okay, I'm good. I'm happy. I love these new characters. I want them to get their own thing too. There's definitely ways it can be done, but it has to be with love and respect for all the characters.
Yeah, and I would say that the Foundation's arc had a lot of love and respect for the characters, just to like bring it back to this story.
Yeah, but Dan and Andy were diehard fans. Like their love of Legion, it just showed. They when you look at everything from Legion Worlds, Legion Lost, the way that their world building it just blew me away. That's why I was so sad when they were taken off. I'm like, guys, you know what? They invested so much into this that you can do so much with what they came up with. Like they left worlds of possibilities, and and bit of trivia here was that the Blight was going to come back, but in a different form, and you were going to find out. I don't know if they're going to stick with this, but the Blight was going to be. You're going to find out it was going to be a twisted offshoot of Poison Ivy.
Oh.
I don't know how, but I just remember that in conversations, and I just went, really? And they're like, yes, it was like we were gonna somehow relate it. It could have been some genetic alteration of her DNA. Who knows? But still, it just shows you that these guys, they just had so much love for this, and they embraced. They loved Keith. They loved 5-Year Legion. They loved it all, and they weren't gonna like discard for something if it was inconvenient. There was somebody who told me something. It was about Masters of the Universe, and I said, "Oh, I can't stand Orko," and he just said, if you wanted to write Masters of the Universe, there are a lot of people out there that do love Orko. You have to throw Orko in there, or else you're not doing justice to it. And I went, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's like there are ways to do this. You can make things far richer, and DNA definitely understood that. And I'm still to this day very sad that the storylines we didn't get to do.
Well, I just got to say that, I mean, again, I have to thank you for joining us here, because I've gained a much deeper appreciation of the era from having this conversation with you and having you on the podcast. Just because, I mean, between myself and Jay, I'm probably the more critical of the DNA work between the two of us. But I mean, everything I'm hearing, I'm just like, damn, I want more of it now. You know what I mean?
Well, I remember reading a random issue because I had stopped reading Legion for a while, because I felt like it became kind of like, I hate to use the term Archie Legion, but it felt kind of like weightless.
Oh,
like
yeah. For sure.
It felt kind of kiddie, and and I read this random issue, and I didn't even realize that DNA had just started. This is when they were canceling the original title.
Right.
DNA had written an issue, and there was a line in there where I think it was Erg 1 was being introduced, which got my, and I immediately perked up Erg 1. And then it was one Legionnaire was diving into space, and it might have been Erg 1. And I think it was either Cosmic War or Saturn Girl had said to him, "That's okay, Erg 1, you're Legion now." And the way the line was said, I was like, wait, I got chills from that. And they wrote like a couple of issues, and I noticed that tonally, it felt more science fiction-y.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it had more weight, and it felt more serious, but it still had the Legion spirit.
Yeah. There was definitely, and Jay and I have talked about this at length, that where there was a, and I don't know if that had to do with the editorial folks changing behind the scenes, but yeah, there was a stretch of time between the end of Legion 100, LSH 100 from V4, and when DNA came on board, where it just kind of it kind of meandered a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to speak ill of like fellow creators. It's just that the fact that I wasn't reading it tells me all that I needed to know, and I'm a diehard Legion fan.
Well, I mean, and like Jay was saying, the sales numbers kind of told the story too.
It just kind of felt like goofy adventures, and I couldn't get into it. And then I got into Legion. I read The Blight. I think that was the end of the Legion run when they did The Blight. Yeah. And I remember fans were like cursing Olivier Coipel's name. But I remember seeing that there was like some real brilliance in his work, even back then. Like I could see something in there. Like, but I loved the tone. Like I was like, this is some dark. And then how they dealt with that. And then right into Legion Lost. Legion Lost was when I was fans of DNA for years, ever since Knights of Pendragon. And there was Legion Lost was like, it was my jam. I was like, Legion is back. This is like really cool ideas, unexplored space, and Olivier was taking these artistic leaps every single issue.
Yeah. We've had that discussion too. In fact, I think the last episode, Jay and I were talking about that, about how just the level of development that Coipel had from his first issue to the last issue, and then how stupid were DC not to keep him on board.
Oh, it's funny because he was doing the Legion, and they were, and I remember the editor was like, "Why aren't you giving this guy a contract? He's a nuclear bomb about to go off."
Right.
And it was because no one's reading Legion, but people were, at the time, they were really paying attention. And I remember Coipel was just like, because that's what I wanted from the Legion. It should look like an epic, treat it like the X-Men, treat it seriously. And he put in all this incredible work, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I remember having to take over from him. I was terrified, but then I just kind of just relaxed, I was like, I'll just do it my way. And I'll acknowledge all of the beautiful work he did because he had all these great designs. And I couldn't believe that Marvel let him go. I mean, DC let him go. Like that was, and they never got him back.
Yeah.
Well, because he
was on the big books there forever.
He immediately went to the Avengers.
And he blew up.
Yeah, and so it's crazy to look back at that. You just answered actually one of my questions of how scared were you following Coipel's footsteps in that case?
Oh, I was terrified.
So
I was really scared. But when I wasn't originally supposed to take over the book, I was signed up to do 5 issues of Dream Crime, and because I was supposed to be doing a JLA 12-issue maxi series that was still like in development, and I remember that Coipel had left the book, and I was like, "What?" And I was working at DC at the time, and I was like, I really wanted to know if I could at least get a fill-in issue or something like that. And I mentioned it to my editor. I said, "Listen," he's like, "Look, I'm sorry, the book isn't ready yet. I can see if I can find you something." I said, "Listen, I heard the Legion needs a guy. I could do a couple issues." And he said, "I'll tell them that." And then I got they said, and then he came back to goes, "Yeah, I got you. They want to give you some work, but it's for a 5-issue arc. Are you okay with that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I'm okay for that." And then the JLA thing went away because halfway through the Dream Crime arc, I met Dan and Andy for the first time. They were in New York for Comic-Con, and the editor and I, we were all having dinner and having a great time getting shit-faced. And they had said, "Listen, can you stay? We want you to stay on the book.
Oh, man.
We love what you're doing." He said, "You put stuff in the script that most people don't, that we put in." And they were like really appreciating because I literally gave them what they asked for and beyond. And he said, "We love that. We love what you're doing." And then my editor said, "Listen, I'll handle Dan. Don't worry about the Justice League thing. I'll make him go away. You don't have to talk to him at all." And the Justice League thing went away. Anyway, I think the editor got fired, so that handled that uncomfortable situation because I didn't want to leave the book. I was very happy, and I was happy because they were happy with me, and my efforts were like, I want to be here, and so that's how I ended up getting the ongoing gig, and because I just would throw in those little Easter eggs for them and stuff like that, and I was clearly a fan.
That's awesome. So we finished up Foundations, and then there's the kind of the finale for Dan and Andy, but then in between there's that Keith Giffen issue.
Yeah, that was a great issue.
Yeah. So
I loved that issue.
Was that basically? Did they just basically say, "Here, Keith, just do whatever"?
Basically, yeah. When basically, you get out of Keith's way, and Keith has a blast, and it also gives us room to breathe after such a heavy storyline.
Sure.
And I love that cover with him rolling up his sleeves, Tony Harris and Tom Feister cover. And no, I loved that. I wish I got to draw it, but then you wouldn't have Keith drawing it. But I was cracking up. He says, "I do not smell," like that. That was one of my favorite, just standalone. It was a perfect Keith Giffen story.
And the danger of having sex with a Brawlian.
Yeah, it was great, But yeah, it was sad that their last 2 issues, which was supposed to be 5, which still isn't enough, but at least 5. We were supposed to do a 2-part Cub Timberwolf Ultra Boy story.
Okay.
Where they were supposed to go off with Cub to try to get his cure. And he was going to die during the story because it was going to be irreversible. It was going to have space whales. And it was supposed to have an entire issue-long fight between Ultra Boy and Timberwolf going at it. Like, just tearing the crap out of each other. And I was like, I didn't get to draw that? I was so sad. I was like, that was the one I wanted more than anything. But yeah, that was originally part of like the 5 issues. Like since the Cub arc had been building for so long, like that was one of the ones that, all right, the fans would want this. We have to actually give them what they want. But then when it was like, oh no, you're down to 2 issues. Ugh. So that's why they had to do the singularity. And if you ever wondered why it felt so compacted, and I still think even with like the heaviness of the assignment itself, like how am I gonna wrap up our run in 2 issues? I think they did an amazing job with such a it's just like nobody. I don't think most people would have done the job so well. It reminded me of there was a panel with Kid Quantum talking to this fleet of ships who are like, and this is where how they understood the Legion, where Kid Quantum tells them, because they're going to attack them, because listen, I got people who can break planets. I got people who can stop gravity. I have all these people on my side. Let's talk. You know, it was something like that, and it was just great, and it really made me sad that I think they did them wrong. I think they deserved another chance. I think they should have just given them a mini series or something to wrap their stuff up, and then they could have done the weight kits and stuff separately.
Yeah,
you know.
I was going to say,
I don't think fans would have been upset.
I was going to say, I thought the best part of those last two issues, and I think the art that you provided, like one thing that I've always loved about your work on the Legion is we can tell what the characters are thinking and feeling, and you convey that so well. And there's that final scene with Saturn Girl and Livewire, and when they pull them all back together, because I think that's the most important relationship in the Legion. Like when you have those two together, and that fact that was the final moment, I thought it was just perfect ending to a story that, you know, obviously they didn't want to write it the way they did, but that worked amazingly well.
I thought that was a great moment for them. And when it comes to trying to invest emotional beats into characters, I have a huge amount of influence from Kevin Maguire, who was just a master, you know, when I see him on Justice League. So I tried to bring my love of Maguire into it. And I don't think you can go wrong with that, especially when it comes to emotional scenes. But I remember, you think you guys will appreciate this. I'm a huge Mon-El fan, and I finally got to draw him for the last two issues. He's been gone. I'm like, I love Mon-El. Yep. That's my boy. You know, I even read Valor because I love Mon-El, and that had its potential, you know, but it still was a misfire. But I remember saying, I really don't like Mon-El's costume. He's like, and they kept saying why. I said, he's got like Shazam kind of. He's got the Captain Marvel gold bracelets. It's like. He doesn't look like Mon-El. So can I just do an updated, like kind of a military version of his classic suit? He goes, and I begged the editor. He's like, come on, it's my last couple issues. I want to fix Mon-El. And he goes, okay, but we need to wreck his original costume.
Right. Okay.
So in the first couple of pages, he comes through and his costume's in tatters. And then later, if you see, I do like, because Mon-El had the puffy shirt.
And the two medallions. Yep.
Yeah. So, but I made it into a kind of a military jacket.
Yeah.
With knee-high military, but it's classic Mon-El's costume. But I wanted them to look a little more regal, you know, and a little more bad. I mean, I love the puffy shirt, but I still think you can turn it into a jacket and still preserve that look. But I remember the last issue, I got my way and I got to fix Mon-El's costume.
I always wondered about that. That's thank you.
I begged. I was like, come on, let me just give him another costume, please.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that previous costume because I like the singular stripe design of the reboot Legion. Like I think that having that as a through line is good, but certainly they're like, for example, like the Alex Ross, like the red stripe design for Superboy, it just wouldn't have worked. It was too much red on that costume. Like there's too much red as it is on the Superman costume. Hot take. I realize that like I feel that blue is the dominant color for the Superman outfit, and that it's only because he's the first superhero that like having such two primary colors clash is acceptable because he's the first superhero, and that's the only other reason. Anyway, moving on. So I like that singular stripe and like the M sort of representation, but it is too much. And like the big gauntlets and everything, that all looks like too much. So I'm with you, and I really do like your updated look of the classic Valor look, or the classic Mon-El look, even though we're only getting it for 2 issues here.
Well, interestingly enough, I actually I didn't like with one of the last iterations of the League when they were trying to do the adult Legion with the Paul Levitz run. Mm-hmm. I did not like those costumes. I mean, I love Gary Frank, but the costumes just didn't work for me. When Jim Lee came in, I loved his Mon-El costume with the black cape with the blue interior, and it was more skin tight, but he had a lot of the elements that you liked from the uniformal thing. I actually thought that was one of the best Mon-El costumes, period. It was a really good design. Because also Mon-El should look inherently simple. He doesn't have a symbol. Doesn't need one. You know, you need that red and blue. You need that cape. You need those circle, those little medallions that's holding the cape. That's it. Don't mess with it. No shoulder pads.
So Chris, thank you for coming on and chatting with us about this arc. It's a fun arc. Is there anything that you want to say about the arc that you haven't had a chance to say so far?
Let's see. In conclusion, it was one of my favorite times in comic books because it was one of those bucket list items, wanting to do the Legion, wanting to work with Abnett and Lanning, who, being a fan of their work, I could see we just kind of thought the same way about certain things. When I would read Guardians of the Galaxy, I was just blown away by how cool those, like, they had a sense of humor to it, but their ideas were always going forward. They had respect for the characters. Like, we always wanted to work together. And like, we almost did Nova for Marvel together, and that fell through. But Legion was, it was an exhausting time, but it was because, like, the sheer scale of characters. But I had so much fun. There wasn't an issue that I was bored by. It was just, I was thrilled, and I would have stayed on that book for another couple of years, like, no problem. Like, especially if Dan and Andy stayed, and I was in artistically, artist will do his best work when he's happy, when he's if he's appreciated, if he feels like this is his spot. Like, I can look at jobs where I'm not happy. Like, when I did Legion Secret Origins, I don't like my work on that book. We were going through we were doing the transition to the New 52, and the horror stories about that. And we went through hell on that book because the storylines kept changing. Oh, you can use Superboy, you can't use Superboy.
Still, good Lord.
It was because it kept undoing elements of the story, and it was like chaotic, and DC hadn't gone over to LA yet, and there's a lot of whispering in the hallways and stuff like that because internally a lot of people weren't happy because it wasn't like the overall thing wasn't as well thought out. It could have worked really well, but on Legion, like, there was no real set idea, and then I didn't really have a stake in the fight because all of my ideas were rejected, like outright rejected. And I thought, as a guy who, I understood the Legion, but it was like, I understood what would make them go forward, how to keep it. Like, I love the old 60s stories, and you can still embody that spirit, but you can't write them like that anymore. It seems like an episode of Scooby-Doo. And, the stories, when I looked at, like, the end result of doing 6 issues, it was like we were kind of doggy paddling through the whole thing because the story wasn't going anywhere. And a good 30 to 40% of the story focused on RJ Brandt talking to another old guy. And there's no flight rings. They literally was a scene where they go, yay, as they're having chips and cake because of Legion new members. And I'm like, they're fighting construction equipment. They're fighting construction equipment, and they're saying yay. And it just wasn't, I remember just artistically not being challenged because there's, like, shots where you have Colossal Boy fighting construction equipment, but they don't have flight rings. So that limits what you can do artistically because you have to have Colossal Boy in those shots. What, people running around on his feet? Like, when they have flight rings, you can use the whole levels of the page. There's people in the foreground, people in the sky, people in the bottom. They're always moving. So the story just kind of, I remember they were building up for like 5, 6 issues, this inevitable fight with the bad guys in space. And I remember the one thing I got to sneak in there, which never came to fruition, was that the aliens were, remember Tyr, Gunhand Tyr?
Yep.
They were supposed to be his people, and they were never discussed in the Legion at all. And if you look at those issues, they have mohawks and things like that in this armor. But I didn't want to show the red skin yet. But I wanted to say that they were this ultra belligerent, like, very aggressive race, and that they were that tough. But then the Legion comes and beats them in 5 pages. When I read the script, they were, like, in space in these bulky spacesuits because they don't have, and they were described as bulky spacesuits. You don't see the costumes. But I'm like, and they win? Like, they literally, like, just beat them in 5 pages after 6 issues of buildup, and then Phantom Girl goes with this bomb or something that goes flying into this rift, and it blows up, and then somehow manages to fly all that distance back to this gigantic Star Cruiser and meet them on the battle deck. And I'm sitting there going, Paul, how does that work? She can't fly. That's a massive fucking spaceship. Does she know where it is in this? Like, it just drove me crazy because it was people standing around for 6 issues talking, and RJ Brand having some kind of philosophical debate. And I thought that Legion Secret Origins could have been explosive, exciting. And my pitch, I had a pitch where we take that classic Legion story where, remember, they save RJ Brand from being assassinated? And it was just a silly moment. Like, you run to the airport, hey, I stopped them, guy. I said, no, let's do this like a Michael Bay movie. Where it's like it's like this intergalactic space flight where RJ Brand is broadcasting across the universe, and he refuses to fly in protection because he's RJ Brand. He wants to speak to the people, and people are seeing it across the universe because it's RJ Brand. And on that flight are our Legionnaire 3, and they're from different walks of life. And there's a terrorist attack to take out Brand on this flight that is being broadcast across the universe. And these 3 have to come together. And RJ Brand's security detail, like, these are guys who are phasing in and out of reality because of whatever technological means in the future. But it's the 3 of them that start figuring out, like, Imra's hyper telepathy is picking up something that none of their technology can detect because she's so advanced. And it takes a combination of his magnetism and his electricity to break their shielding. And they save RJ Brand. And the universe sees this, but it would be like a huge movie, them being chased through the ship, explosions, like they're being tested, but it was being broadcast across the universe because these terrorists wanted to make a point, but it backfires because it makes heroes out of rock, and the 3 of them.
It'd be kind of like the Fifth Element.
And the universe sees this. The universe sees that these guys and Rock was like, he's an athlete. He was about to become a superstar because he's a Magnaball guy. And like the next couple of issues would be about Brand telling them, kids, your lives are over. You don't know what you've started here. You know, you've shown the world that we can work together. Like, you know, and that would be the foundation of how, like, I wanted it that way. And my editor was like, that sounds awesome. And Paul was like, no.
Wow. So
it was very frustrating because I had all these ideas, and but when I was on the DNA book, they always listened to me. Like, I would throw out ideas, and they would be like, "That's really good. I like that idea," and they'd incorporate it. And so it felt like we were in the team, and we all were trying to make the thing, inevitably, what comes out at the end, the best. Yeah. And it wasn't just because it was my idea or his idea; it was because the end product was what mattered.
A fully collaborative effort. Yeah.
When we were doing Secret Origins, I just felt like we were Paul was trying to keep everything too safe, you know, and like, we can still be completely reverent of the source material, but let's go balls out. And he just, you know, he didn't even want to use teleporters. It was like he hated them. He said, I was like, they're flying their spaceship, like literally, like he's flying his space. We don't fly cars. We don't drive cars now. You know, like we don't have to. And I wanted, like, it was just very frustrating. But yeah, I'm a diehard Legion fan. I would love to do them again at some point, but DC is a weird place, so you never know. Yeah. You never know. Yeah. You know, but I didn't want to. The Bendis Legion, I was hoping it would kick butt, and fans really didn't get it. And then I remember seeing Supergirl in the Legion. Did you watch the animated movie?
We got to talk about that on here sometime.
I remember being furious. I was like, Mon-El's the traitor.
Yeah, I know.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
I was like, that's my boy. You making him a traitor? And it was like they were afraid to use the Legion because they only used like 3 or 4. Yeah. And I was like, no, this is the Legion.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that movie, but yeah.
I think it's a property that deserves like a huge spotlight, and it has to be done with love and care. I'm not saying it has to be done by me. Sure, I'd love my take. But I'm sad to think that we never got to see what Jonathan Hickman could have done with it.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Oh my God,
that sounds really scary, like out there, which is what you need. But you also need someone that is going to love the Legion in all its parts to want to preserve that. and I hope someday we get that. But you were saying that, they were showing Kid Quantum in some kind of Darkseid's Legion, so maybe they're going to be making a comeback. So
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this summer. I mean, so there's they had the all-in special that ended with this big splash page from Dan Mora that had Darkseid and like Darkseid versions of gosh, who was it? We had Cosmic Boy, the Legionnaires 3 plus Shrinking Violet and an evil-looking Cam and Kid Quantum was there, meaning Kid Quantum 2. Couple others. So yeah, and I think there was was it one of the Superman episodes, or JMike, maybe one of the recent issues that came out that kind of ended with the three.
Yeah, there. God, I forget
Legionnaires.
which issue it was, but
Oh, it was the summer special.
That was
the
that.
summer special.
Yeah, like we. But yeah, that because that was my first time seeing them, because I hadn't seen the DCLN stuff.
Ah, okay, yeah. So they had Booster Gold held captive.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm seeing some stuff from DC All In that I'm really appreciating and liking. So I want there to be a Great Legion book. It's like I don't actively root against. I wanted the Bendis book to kick butt, and I just couldn't get into it. And I'm surprised it got shot down really fast. I remember getting from the library. It was a JLA Legion 6 issues.
Yeah.
And I remember.
Don't get me started on that one.
They had too many double page spreads of them standing around talking.
Yeah.
And still Matter Reader didn't get a line of dialogue.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, and I'm not trying to pick on Brian Michael Bendis. I'm just trying to understand, didn't someone take a look and say they're literally just talking for 6 issues?
Yeah.
That's not the Legion book I remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we could have a whole other discussion on editors and editor styles in the last, between the 80s, 90s, and today, right? Because I don't know. My opinion was that I don't think there was much editorial involvement in a lot of that.
No, but I think that Brian just kind of does his own thing because he's Brian.
Yeah, exactly.
But I still think it's like starting at an issue with a headshot, giant face, and then 29 lines of word balloons attached to it is even the most devout reader is going to check out. It's like, okay, I'm just trying to figure out why. That's all.
I feel like we could go for a long time talking about Brian Michael Bendis, especially in his connection to the Legion of Superheroes, but just in general, I'm biting my tongue because while I have liked a lot of Brian Michael Bendis stuff, I haven't been a fan of all of his stuff, and I have felt like I've taken crazy pills sometimes, and I've been like, what do you mean? Hang on, what? I've enjoyed a lot of his stuff, but
same here.
But I feel like we could go really deep if we wanted to, and I know that we all had time constraints.
Yeah. I was just gonna say this. So Superman 28, end of July. That's the Legion's gonna pop up in the storyline there. That's the big summer event that's coming. Just for anybody, if you want to keep an eye open for that. So that's the big one.
Okay, I've got to keep my eye out for that.
Yeah, so
I hope it delivers. I mean,
fingers crossed. Yes.
You have Dan Mora there, and that's never a bad.
Right.
He's awesome, and I like that they're using him on Superman. That's actually you should be using him on Superman, and he clearly likes drawing Superman. So that's when you have someone who it does help when you get people who are invested in what they're doing, and it helps with certain books like the Legion particularly, and I remember drawing Justice League. I had the same love and respect for it because these were characters I had been dying to draw, and I got to draw them all in one book. So I was just pouncing on that. And then I've been on other books where it's just kind of oh God, he's got another page of nothing but dialogue, or it's I remember drawing an issue of The Flash, and it pushed me as an artist because it was an entire issue with gorillas fighting people, and I had to learn how to draw realistic gorillas, which I learned to do. I did the research, but I was checked out by the 18th page because it was exhausting drawing riding gorillas. lots and lots of riding gorillas. And this writer loved to do 6-panel battle scenes with multiple characters. And I'm just like, we're human, please. I'm on a deadline, bro. But it was funny. The Legion, I got hit by that all the time, but I could do it because I was into it.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I get to draw cars, I get to draw Karate Kid. So it's some people can turn that switch off and they can draw whatever. And I wish I could do that, but I just can't. I have to have some kind of, I gotta be connected to it because I have to creatively tap into something
For sure.
to make it work.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. I hate to do this because I could.
No, I gotta go.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could get these behind the scenes stories all day, but I just want to do like a really quick wrap up on this and just kind of get everybody's take on the whole Foundation story. And I'm going to start with the person who we haven't heard from that much and whose opinion I love hearing on these podcasts. So JMike, what's your thought on the story? And I will ask you this: like, I know we keep forcing the Legion onto you. And I know Case is torturing you with this, but does this give you motivation to check out some other Legion stuff? Or so two-part question. What do you think of Foundations and what does your future hold?
Well, I don't hate the Legion. I actually like reading about the Legion because it's always something new and fun and something completely balls off the wall adventure is happening. Like Legion Lost, I was like, what is happening? The first time I saw Darkseid and Legion, I was like, he's still around? Oh, wait, he can't. He's a damn near god. Cool. But Foundations was pretty interesting. It's like a new take on the other arc we read, which is the
Great Darkness Saga.
Great Darkness Saga, yeah. So I was like, oh, like I was telling you guys and the other episode that we did. But it's always fun. Like Darkseid's my favorite villain. And it always sucks that like no one ever does him justice properly. Like you guys talked about earlier. Like he's not a person that you can just go punch, and we won. He's very dark and maniacal with his machinations and things. So you should never be able to just punch him back into the boom tube and be done. And like it goes so much further than that. But to see him go up against the Legion, like how many thousands of years up in the future, like this is always so cool to see. And I forgot the other part of the question.
So does this inspire you to look at more Legion stuff? Like,
oh yeah, I'll look. I'll definitely read more.
I would highly recommend just starting at the beginning of the Legion, like this series, because you read Legion Lost, like you'll understand like where it starts. I did have a question though. Yeah.
Yep.
So you guys keep mentioning Booster Gold. He's my second favorite comic book character. I was like, wait, doesn't he like tie in somewhere with this eventually? I feel like he does.
He's a secret Legionnaire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's a secret Legionnaire. He is a member of the Legion, but it's on the hush hush.
Okay. I was very curious. I was like, wait, isn't he around here somewhere?
Yeah, he has a Legion ring.
Yeah, that's still part of his story that he stole the time bubble and the Legion ring to go back in time to be the hero.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and anytime you say Booster Gold is one of your favorite characters, I know that you're a man of taste in that case. Because he's one of those guys, like, to defend him to non-superhero or like non-comic book fans, and they're like, Booster Gold,
awesome.
And you're like, trust me, he's awesome.
He's awesome.
I was speaking of Booster Gold, I was supposed to draw that series with Jeff Johns. I was the official artist.
Oh, really?
But, it was. We were coming out of New 50. I mean, after the 52 series, the guys who were regularly drawing it, we were all going to get a series out of it. And originally, it was supposed to be Animal Man for me, but then that changed. And because I was a huge fan of the Grant Morrison book, and but then they had a list of characters. It was Black Adam. I can't remember the others, but there was no Animal Man, but the other one was Booster Gold, and I picked Booster Gold, and I was set to do that, but it turns out that Dan Jurgens, since he created the character, has the right of first refusal, and then they went with that they had to legally give him the job, so I didn't get to do that issue, and I wasn't upset until I read the first issue of Booster Gold, and then I went, damn, because it was so good, like that 18-issue run with Jeff Johns and I'm forgetting his name, those 18 issues were just as an artist I would have gone insane drawing all that fun stuff, but they got his character, and especially Jeff's last issue where you find out the real punchline when it comes to Booster Gold, where we'd all not be here if it weren't for Booster Gold. It was a beautiful love letter.
Nice. All right. So that means sometime in the far future, we can do this again, and we can pick another Legion storyline. So,
Yes.
Case, your thoughts on all of this?
I like Foundations. It has a lot of legacy going into it. Like, is it better than the Great Darkness Saga? No. But and it's hard to talk about it without bringing up the Great Darkness Saga. But I do rather like it. I really love the DNA Legion run. Like, Chris, like, your art on this was fantastic, and it's so weird going back to a series that I had read and then be like, oh, I know the artist now. On that one. But it's like I really appreciate like all of the character drama that's going on, and I think that that DNA had a mastery of this larger cast and building it up and like having all these characters work really well, and there's clearly a lot of thought going into it all. So I think it's a solid book, and I think that the series as a whole is great. Like I was saying to JMike, like, you should check this book out. Like, it feels in a lot of ways like a beta test for the stuff that DNA would do when they went over to Marvel, which would lead into eventually the Guardians of the Galaxy movie and everything. So like there's certainly like a lot of interesting stuff percolating in this book.
Oh, and one last thing about DNA and their use of Ra's al Ghul, which was amazing in the book. The reason why Ra's al Ghul was put to the sidelines in that series was because Dan DiDio told them to, because he didn't like the idea of Ra's al Ghul interacting with the Legion, because in his mind he told him that Batman lost. So they had to sideline Ra's al Ghul after that. So they had big plans for Ra's al Ghul even after they defeated him, but they had to put them away because Dan didn't like it. Isn't it? You're like,
this
wow.
is why I'm still like very proud that like when I was a pitch hitter on for the Archie team during the Archie versus DC softball game in like 2006, I scored the one run against Dan Didio.
I got along with Dan just fine, but I didn't like that decision. I was like, and it was also like he was undermining a story that actually made Legion fans jump up and down when they saw the Ra's al Ghul reveal. Like, fans literally went ape shit. They were like,
I thought it was so cool.
It was like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming. And now they had real payoffs associated with it, but they had to put it away.
Well, was it Dan's decision to do for the 3-boot then?
I think it was probably part of it. He had to make the executive decision, but also Mark Waid has like serious weight and fans, so I get that. There's definitely an idea behind it. I'm just I don't know. I thought it might have made more sense for Mark Waid to just take the book over. Instead of rebooting it.
No, I agree. And that, I guess my point is that under Dan's leadership, whatever you want to call that, there's been, the lead. It's done a lot of damage to the Legion itself as a property, I think. But
yes,
yeah. All right, Jim, what do you think
of the story?
Yeah.
So I loved it. So I mean, I'm in line with a lot of what Case said here. Again, this for me, this was the storyline where I'm like, this is the Legion. Because I came on board to the Legion with the post 0 Hour reboot. So like that first section while Casey Carlson was editor, is just amazing to me. Like that's like my Bible. And then, and so I had some adjustment going through with the Dan and Andy transition, but by the time Foundation hits, I'm all in, right? I mean, I'm back to where I'm like really comfortable with everything. I really love it, and I want to go back and reread the earlier stuff, and I want more of what I'm getting here, right? Because Chris, your artwork was fantastic here.
Thank you.
I mean, it's like, I'm a big fan of Jeff Moy's work from the previous iteration of the Legion, and I feel like there's a lot of, you guys both have these very clean lines with how you approach the characters and the action, and it just a beautiful thing to read. So I can't recommend it enough.
That's good. Yeah, I almost feel like I should be apologizing to Abnett and Lining. My original review for this was a lot harsher than I reread it before we did this podcast.
Yeah.
And I realized
Same.
like my original review, the entire time I was just comparing it to the Great Darkness Saga, which just isn't
Yeah.
fair,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. You
No.
can.
Because it's a complete, and I realized that as I'm reading over this again, and I'm like, okay, I have to look at this with fresh eyes. I have to look at this in a different way. And the one thing that didn't change as I looked at it again, and I know this sounds like we're just blowing smoke, but the one comment was like the art is so good. And it just elevates it to the next level. So I mean, we've all kind of said the same glowing things, and it's we're all just impressed by what you did, Chris. There's some pages on there that just like they're right off the page. They just grab your attention, and it's what you want out of a comic book. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this to JMike as well. This whole run, let's start. I would even go back to the Blight storyline, like the very end of the last,
Okay.
and then get into Legion Lost and get into this. And that actually leads to one thing that just stuns me, that none of the other Legion stories are in trade paperbacks. Like they did the Legion
Yeah, I
Lost,
noticed
but
that.
the fact that you can't get Coipel's stuff in a trade is just stunning to me.
You know, it bothers me that we don't have Legion Worlds in
Yeah.
the trade paper.
Yeah, like
you know, God.
yeah, and this would be, yeah, I would recommend all of this stuff. I think it's a really, really good run, and then you will come to that conclusion of I can't believe it got rebooted, because as we've said many times today, there's so much built. There's so much backstory that's there. Like there's so many worlds to play with that we never got to see happen, which was the big shame. So,
Yeah.
all right.
If Dan and Andy were ever to be able to partner again and work together, what they really need to do is bottle it up and write up a how-to on how to do world building, because it's just, I mean, I've never seen better, honestly. It's just
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So let's go through where can we find everybody out in the interwebs, or so let's start with you, Chris.
Oh, I'm on Facebook primarily, and I should look up to Blue Sky because I keep hearing great things about it. And I'm on Twitter, but I never use it, like ever. And
good.
I have my ethical reasons, of course, but I just never really used it. And occasionally, an old friend reaches out to me through it, so I keep it. But I don't post on it or anything like that. And but Facebook is a good place to reach me. LinkedIn's a good place to reach me. I want to keep in touch with you guys, and I am going to be scanning up a lot of these old pages from this run. So if you want me to send you like scans of it, I'd be delighted. So I'll get all your information from Case. And I mean, I love trading these old Legion stories. I'm getting like all nostalgic, and to this day, I'm still. I still can't wrap my brain that they canceled the book.
Yeah.
It was like it was running on all cylinders, and it's like. And now we're on another reboot. It's just like, it still drives me crazy. But yeah, so Facebook, if you guys want to just come in, just look me up. And I have posted, there's in my art section, there's hundreds of pictures of my original pencils from Justice League to Legion.
Wow. Yeah, that's stunning. Yeah, that I really want to see. I almost want to get a Facebook account again, but I canceled all that. So, JMike, where can everybody find you?
Oh man, you can also find me on the Blue Sky, or as the Blue Ski's case says, at j5.bluesky.social, and also on our Certain Point of View Discord channels. Mostly, kind of, sort of, eventually.
Yep, that's right.
When you show up.
The Certain Point of View Discord is a great place to get in touch with all of us. We've got the Discord that now Long Live the Legion is part of the Certain Point of View family. We've got a little section of the Discord server for y'all, but I know you've got your own Discord.
Absolutely. Yep. So we have, from a Discord perspective, for the Long Live the Legion website and podcast, we have our Blue Sky address for the podcast is longlivethelegion.bsky.social, or you can email us and give us feedback and all that kind of good stuff at longlivethelegion2025@gmail.com.
Nice. And Jim, where can we find you?
Well, I have my Legion review website at jimboslegion.blogspot.com, where I try to post a comic a week that's somehow Legion related. I think I'm going to do the second Legion Lost and see how that goes as my next project. So you can find me personally on Blue Sky at jimbofett.bsky.social, on Reddit at jimbofett87, and on Discord as Jimbo Fett on the Legion fan club Discord and on the Certain Point of View Discord as well.
Nice. And you
Where
can
we find you, Jay?
Oh, sorry. And you can find me and my reviews at jmlonglivethelegion.blogspot.com. You can find me personally on Blue Sky at jmckernan.bsky.social. You can find me on either Discord or Reddit under the username Drake Burrows, which I'm never going to give up. I just like you, Case. I am going to hold on to that as tightly as I can.
Yeah,
so,
I didn't actually drop my socials. I just realized. So I'm at
I'm sorry.
at Case Aiken at most platforms except for Instagram, where, as we just noted, I am holding on to my AIM screen name for dear life, where I am Quetzalcoatl 5, which is a Legion of Superheroes reference. I deliberately chose the 5 because at the time there weren't that many Quetzalcoatls, if you'll believe it. And so I was able to like score that one, and I was like, yeah, Brainiac 5.
Oh, and I forgot to mention that if you wanted to see what I'm currently working on, I'm working on another bucket list item. I draw Gotcha Man for Mad Cave Studios, which is Battle of the Planets or G-Force, whichever iteration you recall from your childhood.
Yes.
Nice. Thank you. I forgot to ask that, and I meant to, so I do apologize.
I completely forgot about it because you're talking about Legion, but it's still young teenagers. But it is another bucket list item that I'm getting to work on, and it is I'm definitely having a blast on this one as well, like an absolute blast. It's really fun because we're doing it in conjunction with the Japanese studio who owns Gotcha Man. So we're not like we're not considered like the Bastard Son spinoff. Like we literally have their blessing, and they have been so wonderful to work with. And I send them it was another job where I walked in and I was absolutely terrified, but they were but I also knew in my heart that I was the right guy to do the job because I know how to draw that style. And I'm handing in my first few pages and I'm waiting to get like reams of you did this wrong, you did that wrong, we don't like this design, we don't like that, because everything has to be approved in advance. And I've done all this design work, and then I get like this brief paragraph, oh my god, we love it, get to work, this is so amazing. And I'm like, what? Okay, the next time they're going to tell me they don't like this because I'm going to push it a little harder. And to date they send like these lovely notes, and every time I have to do a new, I just sent in a design for a giant mechanical Sphinx, and I'm not worried that they're going to approve it because they've been so wonderful, and I think we're now on the same wavelength. And so I'm not doing a Legion right now, but I'm doing Gotcha Man, and I'm having a blast because I love that show as a kid.
Awesome.
Another team with a letter on their belts. Big G.
Exactly.
Big G.
Hey, these guys were the granddaddies of the big G.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for this, for taking the time and having this awesome discussion, this supersized edition of Long Live the Legion and Men of Steel. This is fantastic. And so we're recording this well in advance, so I don't know what our next topic is going to be yet. But until you see us next time, long live the Legion.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.